If you listen to Kenyans, even when they are in political party, the same political party, the same, which you think that what binds them is ideology. But within that same political party, people are still talking tribe, our son, our daughter. It appears that the jury is still out as to whether the political party is the avenue. The question of instability. Our nations, the post-independence African nation is still very young and unstable. The oldest post-independence country in sub-Saharan Africa, barring Egypt, which is 1922, and including Sudan, which is 70 years since she regained her independence in 1956, 70, Ghana 69. We are still grappling with many of these things. And they are both internal contradictions and external pressures. So we are unstable. We are navigating some of these things. It is our duty to be in a state of constant search. And I heard Dr. Mulukas reminding you of the statement by Winston Churchill, where he said that democracy is not the best form of governance as he described it, but he has yet to find one that is better. He was talking about Western Europe and former colonies. Look at what is happening now in China. How are they governing themselves? He's a Chinese character. Look at Vietnam. Look at Laos. Look at Cambodia. Look at Thailand. Look at India. Look at Indonesia. It's not that they don't have problems. Is there something that we can do? I leave that answer with you. Coup d'etats. In 1963, Kwame Nkrumah was addressing an audience in Accra, Ghana, and he said that the military has no role in the political affairs of any nation. But should it become necessary for the military to intervene in the affairs of any nation because the political clash have squandered the mandate that they were given, the military should only get into that space for a short period for the purpose of restoring order and ensuring that power is restored to the people who have the people's mandate. That is how I understand the Sahel. The ballot had been abused in Guinea. The ballot had been abused in Niger. The ballot had been abused in Mali. The ballot had been abused in Burkina. And that is why I support those extraordinary changes of power as a medium measure to restore the country to normalcy. And you know that since that period, Traore has survived several assassination attempts and coup attempts, one as recent as Friday, last week. In 1997, there was something called the IPPG. And I remember at that time we were only 25 with my friend Nicholas Otieno and the late Okio Kombaka. And we created a movement called Modern, Movement for Dialogue and Nonviolence. We were animated at that time by Martin Luther King Jr. and Mohandas Gandhi. We made our contribution. Ultimately, there was the IPPG, and we make the claim, even if it is not true, that we made a contribution. We were only 25. You must strive to make a contribution. In 2007, when the country was almost going to war, we also made a contribution. And if you read the book written by the late Raila Odinga, whom I did not agree with on many issues, but to his credit, he mentions that our group are the ones who recommended the process that actually ultimately brought in Kofi Annan. You must always make a contribution. As I said, the post-colonial African state is troubled, and there is evidence even as I speak. And I ask you to go to, how many years ago? Just a few years ago, 1963 to be exact. And I want you, and it is available online, the resolutions of the 32 heads of states and government assembled in Addis Ababa in May of 1963. At that time, there were two groups. The Casablanca group led by Kwame Nkrumah, which wanted unity immediately. And then there was the Monrovia group, which included, among others, Taubat, I think, Félix Houphouët-Boigny of La Côte d'Ivoire, and to a certain extent, Julius Nyerere, who said it should be incremental. And I want you to listen to the speech, which has now been produced, of Kwame Nkrumah on the 24th day of May. He said, "Let us leave this place in Addis Ababa with one government now. Let us live with one army now. Let us live with one foreign policy now. I'm even suggesting that we choose a capital city now. I'm recommending Leopoldville because it is central. It is now Kinshasa, but it may be changed." And then he went on to say, if we don't do that, we are each going to get used to our individual countries, and it will be more difficult. The argument was at that time that the boundaries should be changed. Nkrumah said, no, if we begin fighting about boundaries, there'll be no end to wars. And that is why a meeting was convened in 1964 in Cairo, Egypt, in which it was decided that we'll retain the boundaries that we inherited, because anyway, they would just be administrative. A third meeting was convened in 1965 in Accra, Ghana, at which people thought we would now announce one common African government. It never happened, and in 1966, Nkrumah was overthrown. In 1997, on 6th of March, 40 years, Ghana's independence, Nyerere apologized. He said Nkrumah was right, we were wrong. Africa cannot grow without unity. We then started forming the East African Community at that time. Those of you who are older will remember even examinations were common: East African Certificate of Education, East African Post and Telecommunication, East African Airways. Then they collapsed in 1997. As I speak to you now, with Kenya as the chair of East African Community and the Secretariat of the East African Community, workers at the EAC have not been paid for the last 3 months. To its credit, however, Kenya has made 100% contribution, Kenya and Tanzania. We are becoming weaker and weaker, and borders are hardening on a daily basis. In Accra, Ghana, on the 4th to the 6th, I was a part of a group. We have now launched a program called Borderless Africa, and we are looking for 10 million signatures. I actually invite you to go and look for Borderless Africa and sign our petition. We want that petition signed in the next 3 months. We are handing over the petition to all the heads of states and government in Africa. It is not going to be easy. So when we talk about unity and a common goal, we know what it is. But somehow we are not doing the right thing. We are still being divided. In the month of May this year in Nairobi, Kenya, France will be meeting former French colonies here in Kenya, in Nairobi. Our French president has invited Macron here. Why? We are being divided on a daily basis. In Addis Ababa, the week before last, on the 39th meeting, the Prime Minister of Italy was meeting Africans. Africa and Italy, there is a new scramble for Africa. So it is your duty to rise up and to ensure that it does not happen. Once again, we are prisoners of the way we are taught and think.